The sun was barely lifting over the red mesas when Luke Callahan rode into the Salt River Valley. Dust clung to his boots and shirt, and his sorrel horse breathed hard after a long night's travel. Luke wasn't wandering without purpose. He had been following the faint trail of two missing Apache women for almost 2 days. Their names were Nayland and Atsa, sisters from a nearby Apache village. Both were soon to be married, Nayland to a skilled hunter named Chayton and Atsa to a young scout named Koa. Their weddings were only days away, but the sisters had disappeared while gathering wild herbs near the river. Their tracks showed signs of being followed, then fading into desert stone. The village elders had sent for help, and Luke, known in the territory as a fair-dealing cowboy who respected the tribes, answered the call. He paused at a ridge, scanning the land. If I were hiding 2 people, he murmured to himself, I'd go where the canyon narrows. His guess soon proved right. Far below, in a shadowed cut in the earth, a thin smoke trail rose. It wasn't from a campfire of travelers, it was too controlled, hidden behind rocks. Luke guided his horse quietly, tying him behind a juniper bush, and crept forward on foot. From his vantage point, he spotted 3 outlaws gathered around a small fire. Their horses were tethered nearby, their saddlebags full. And next to a boulder, sitting with their hands tied but unharmed, were Nayland and Atsa. Luke's jaw tightened. The outlaws looked like amateurs, more interested in quick money than cruelty, but they were still dangerous. He couldn't risk a fight that might frighten or endanger the sisters. Instead he planned carefully. A quiet approach. Luke circled wide, moving from rock to rock. He heard the men talking. We'll trade them by sundown, one of them said. For supplies and silver, another added. And if their village doesn't pay, they will, the first outlaw snapped. Nayland and Atsa sat calmly, whispering to each other in Apache. They were scared but steady, a strength Luke respected. He waited until the outlaws walked away from the sisters to check their horses. Luke stepped out from a sandstone wall and made a soft whistle like a canyon bird. Nayland's eyes widened. She recognized it. It was the signal Luke had used when he helped the village during a drought years earlier. He whispered, "Stay quiet. I'm here to get you home." Atsa nodded slowly. Luke sliced the rope at their wrists with his pocket knife. "When I say run," he whispered, "go toward the juniper ridge. My horse is there. Don't look back." But before they could slip away, a rifle cocked sharply. "Drop the knife, cowboy." Luke froze. The outlaw leader stood behind him, rifle raised. Well, the man sneered. "A cowboy hero. You think you can walk into our camp and steal our bargaining chip?" Luke raised his hands slowly. "They're not bargaining chips," he said calmly. "And you're making this worse for yourselves. Let the women go. No one needs to get hurt." The outlaw laughed. "I'll decide what happens here." But Nayland, quick-minded and brave, suddenly stepped between Luke and the outlaw. "You shouldn't point a weapon at someone who has done nothing wrong," she said firmly. The outlaw hesitated, thrown off by her courage. And that split second was enough. Luke used his boot to kick sand upward, and the outlaw stumbled. Luke pushed Nayland and Atsa toward cover. "Go," he shouted. The 2 sisters sprinted for the ridge just as the other outlaws turned back from the horses. Luke ducked behind a boulder as a warning shot rang out. He didn't fire back. He wasn't there to fight but to protect. He used the rugged terrain to stay out of sight, moving carefully to draw the outlaws away from the fleeing. "Sisters, come on," one bandit yelled. He went that way. The outlaws chased Luke through a narrow canyon. Luke zigzagged, making them lose sight of the exact trail. When he reached a rock ledge, he vaulted behind it and waited. The men thundered past, shouting in confusion. When they were far enough, Luke doubled back toward the ridge where he had hidden his horse. Nayland and Atsa were already there, breathing hard but safe. They'd managed to calm the horse and keep out of sight. Luke motioned to them. "We'll travel on foot until we're far enough, then ride together." They moved quickly through the junipers and dry washes, keeping low. The desert wind covered most of their trail. By noon they had put miles between themselves and the outlaw hideout. At a shaded overhang, they stopped to rest. Atsa offered Luke a small piece of dried cornmeal bread from a pouch she'd kept hidden. "You saved us," she said softly. Luke shook his head. "You did just as much. Your courage back there. Most folks wouldn't have had that strength." Nayland smiled slightly. Our mother taught us to face danger with clear minds. I'd say she taught you well. After resting, they mounted Luke's horse, Nayland sitting behind Luke, Atsa holding the saddle horn, and made the slow journey back toward the village. Return to the village. The Apache village came into view late in the afternoon. Children spotted them first, running to alert the elders. Chayden and Koa, the sisters soon-to-be husbands, ran forward with relief written across their faces. Nayland and Atsa dismounted and rushed into the arms of their family. Cheers rose up. The village elder, Taza, approached Luke with deep respect in his eyes. You have done much for our people, Taza said. You brought back those who are precious to us. You will always have a place here. Luke dipped his hat. They saved themselves as much as I helped. It was their strength that carried them through. Chayden stepped up. Still, we owe you. Just promise you'll keep each other safe, Luke replied. That's all I need. The women were guided to the healer's hut for food and rest. The entire village prepared fresh water, blankets, and warm meals for them. They were tired but unharmed, and their spirits remained strong. That evening, a council fire was lit. The people gathered to honor Nayland and Atsa's safe return. Elders sang blessings, and the drums echoed into the surrounding hills. Taza raised his hand for silence. These sisters, he said, stood brave in the face of danger. And this cowboy, he nodded toward Luke, did not think of reward or safety, only of doing what is right. Luke felt embarrassed by the praise, but the warmth of the community settled around him like a blanket. The following morning, Luke led a group of Apache scouts to the canyon. The outlaws had fled during the night, likely frightened off after realizing they'd lost their captives and their chance at ransom. But they left behind stolen supplies, saddlebags, and evidence of their crimes. The territory marshal later tracked them down with the help of those clues, and the outlaws were arrested without a fight. No further harm came to any travelers or nearby villages. Luke rode back to the Apache village to deliver the news. Taza nodded. Justice has been done. The land is safer because of your actions. Luke smiled slightly. Glad to hear it. Celebration and farewell. 2 days later, the village prepared for the double wedding of Nayland and Atsa. Colorful woven blankets were hung between the lodge poles, and the scent of mesquite and wild sage filled the air. The sisters, dressed in traditional wedding clothes, looked full of calm joy. Before the ceremony, Nayland approached Luke. You helped us return to this moment, she said. We won't forget. Luke tipped his hat respectfully. Just promise me you'll live happy lives. That's enough for me, Atsa added. You'll always be welcome at our fires. Luke stayed for the ceremony, watching as the sisters joined their hands with those of Chayden and Koa, sealing promises of partnership and harmony. The celebration lasted long into the night with songs, stories, and dances. When dawn finally touched the horizon, Luke saddled his horse. Taza met him at the edge of the village. Where will you go now, friend? Luke shrugged. Wherever someone needs a hand, I suppose. The elder nodded. Then the land will guide you well. Nayland and Atsa waved from a distance, smiling brightly. Luke gave one final nod, then turned his horse toward the open plains. As the sun lit the mesas and the desert wind swept across the land, Luke Callahan rode forward, quiet, steady, and ready for the next trail. Because some heroes didn't need glory, just a good reason to help.